morning, everybody. How are we all doing? One more show. Today's show before football is back. Man United against Brighton tomorrow. And my word, do we need the return of football as a club. Fingers crossed we actually win tomorrow. Otherwise, nobody's going to be wanting their football to be back. But look, we get to preview the Brighton game today properly. Get to run through my starting 11. We speak about Højlund. We speak about Amrabat. We speak about all the good things. Of course, we're not going to be speaking about that to start the show. We will be speaking about Jadon Sancho and the developments yesterday. Manchester Statement FC. I mean, we must have had more statements this season than wins. Another statement from the club. Jadon Sancho, he's going to be doing an individual personal training plan, is what Manchester United called it, a.k.a. he's been banished from first-team training after he refused to apologise to Erik ten Hag. I'm going to run through the statement, run through the article from The Telegraph, The Athletic, and we're going to have a conversation around it this morning. And man, what a couple of weeks we've had as fans. My word. Anyway, who's here for the member gang? Let me see down there. It's Friday. We should be smiling. I've got a haircut. We've got Ten Hag on the wall. Think you know where I stand on this one. But yeah, let's have a look down here. Madhouse, good morning to you. Robert Taylor, Gwyn 4, Paul Bamforth, Gungshi. How you doing, buddy? The legend that is Gungshi. Poz, Jason. We've got Maddie. Good morning to you, Maddie. Lone Wolf, Mika, Saeed. We've got Top Dog. We've got Sky Benjamin. We've got Haley. Good morning to you. Wayne, John Neal, Kalechi. Good morning to all of you. Who's on Facebook? Let's have a quick look. We have got Wayne Hogarth, how you doing, dude? John Mort, good morning to you. Craig Knowles, David Peter Quelch, watching from Thailand. Well, good morning to you. Remember, today is, of course, Map Day. I'll be doing that later. Grant Napier watching from YouTube saying, proud to be a member for 17 months. Love this community. I do. I don't really love what's been going on at this club. I feel like I need to sit up in my chair before I start piling into this conversation. Wah. It's been a bit mad, really. And I hoped this wouldn't be the case, but I suspected that it could be, right? The fact that Jadon Sancho released a statement in itself showed us as fans that he really felt strongly about why he was releasing that statement. So the fact that he won't apologise to Erik ten Hag, I suppose, doesn't really come as too much of a surprise to me. This is a statement from Manchester United yesterday. Jadon Sancho will remain on a personal training programme away from the first team group pending resolution of a squad discipline issue. This is the official statement from Manchester United. And I will now run through what's being reported in The Telegraph and The Athletic from James Ducker and Laurie Whitwell in terms of what actually happened, what went on. And we can discuss it down here as a community. Before I do that, though, I can see that there's two absolute icons in the community today. Anthony. Oh, no, there's three. We've got a hat trick. We've got a boy band emerging. We've got Jibak, Anthony, and Jack. Even better than the NSYNC reunion. He said it. I don't know why I remembered that. I was reading some like VMA news this week. Thank you so much to all of you. Let's whip the gong out. Let's whip the gong out. Let's get some smiles on our faces. And 15 of you. There's one. I can't believe this is still a thing. I really can't. I can't wait to digitalize it and bring the software. I know I keep saying this. You wait until this new studio wall gets built. It's going to look so good. I'm so excited for it. But yeah, let's run through this, okay? And I do want to know where you stand on this. I think you know where I stand. I don't particularly feel like I've been sitting on the fence over this one. But I'm interested to know, look, what I'm going to do for the next couple of minutes, I'm going to read through the statements and I'm going to probably kind of look away from the comments for a little bit because I want to run through this before I keep getting distracted by what people are saying, okay? So I'm going to leave that there for a few minutes and I'm going to run through this, okay? I'm going to go full screen so you can see that there and then we can go and we can have a conversation. Jadon Sancho has been banished from Manchester United after refusing Erik ten Hag's demand for an apology. Sancho feels he has been victim of double standards as he is excluded from first-team squad after publicly criticising the manager. Sancho has been banished from United's first-team squad after refusing to that demand for a public apology. Sancho is understood to feel that he's been victim of double standards, as I just said there. Ten Hag has adopted the hardline stance after Sancho refused to apologise publicly for a social media post, which we know. Telegraph Sport has learned that Sancho believes there have been notable inconsistencies in the way that Ten Hag has applied certain rules in relation to him compared to teammates. Now, I think that's part of the conversation, though, I think that we should be speaking here. So if Sancho's correct, what double standards do you think he's talking about? Because I'm sure there are some of you that do. There are some of you that are in the corner of Jadon Sancho on this. What double standards is Jadon Sancho speaking about? Let me know in the comments. Honestly, I'm not doing this to dig people out. I'm genuinely curious as to how you can think that. So Salim down there straight away. Anthony. So the thing that I'm going to say about this, right? And this is the thing that this is how I feel, right? So Anthony is something that's going down there. Jonathan, you're saying we don't know. We are all guessing. Some of you are saying Martial. I think, honestly, if you're going to be looking at like an individual, I've already said this week, right? Then Martial is where you should be looking at if you want to talk about double standards in terms of level of performances, in terms of, I don't know what he's doing in training, but it's the training thing for me. We can all criticize players on what we see at the weekend, right? That's all we're allowed to, that's all we see as fans. We watch the performance and we judge a player and how good that player is, and whether it should be in or out of a team, according to what we see in the game. Because ultimately, the game is what matters. You train for said game. So if you're not delivering in the game, then you need to up your levels. But Ten Hag hasn't ever, in fact, I don't think he ever has. He hasn't criticized Jadon Sancho's performances. The only thing he's ever questioned is Jadon Sancho's training. And this is the thing for me, right? The same issues existed at Dortmund. The same questions have been asked at England. Now the same questions have been asked at United. And there's some people down in the comments, and there's everybody going, and they're saying mental health reasons because of mental health. It's unfair to have any of these questions like it's a blanket rule. And there's going to be people now that are calling me, and I have been, right. It's not that I listen to trolls, but I appreciate what a community thinks about my opinion, and I do take opinions on board. I don't just blanket and ignore everyone if I don't agree with it. So it does make me go, all right, okay, I'll take that on board, and I think about it. You can't just have a blanket, Jadon Sancho's got some mental health concerns, and that justifies everything else. Because the thing that's been questioned with Jadon Sancho at multiple clubs of different years is professionalism. At Dortmund, the Dortmund assistant boss had to knock on Jadon Sancho's door to make sure he was coming. It might be sleeping problems. Now, Jadon Sancho's gone on record to say that. That was in 2020. It is now 2023. If that was a problem, then what's being done about it behind the scenes? And this is something I said as well. Is it about you need pure, when it comes to mental health problems, you need complete and utter honesty and openness if you're ever going to try and truly address them and improve them. Now, Vic, you're going to go down there, and I'm going to pull this one out because let's not make wild assumptions there about sleeping pill problems, right? Obviously, Dele Alli has spoken about that and spoken about how that's a problem in professional footballers. A lot of professional footballers are given sleeping pills to help them because sometimes they're playing on a Tuesday and then a Saturday, and you've got to fly in between places, and you get adrenaline rush from games, so you're up, you can't sleep. So a sleeping pill can help you through. Dele Alli went through that and unfortunately got addicted to sleeping pills off the back of it. We can't make any sort of mad assumptions like that. But I refuse to accept anybody. Not that I refuse to accept. I disagree with anybody who says that Erik ten Hag has thrown Jadon Sancho under the bus. It's just not true. he gave him 3 months off, guys, and got 3 months. Like, you can't downplay that. 3 months. Mid-season. And Jadon Sancho came back, and his performances, even the strongest Jadon Sancho fans, his performances were up and down. There is clearly more behind the scenes that we don't know about here. Will we ever find out? I don't know. But if you ever think that publicly calling your manager a liar is a solution to an issue you might have with your manager, spoiler alert, it's not. It's not. And I don't know how anybody can try and call me a hypocrite either. I think Jadon Sancho as Ten Hag has tried. He has tried. And even what he said after the game, there's people saying, oh, he threw him under the bus. Jadon was on his performance in training, so we didn't select him. You have to reach the level every day at Manchester United. You can make choices in the front line. So in this game, he wasn't selected. Erik, we judge whether players are good or bad according to what we see on the pitch. Erik ten Hag and his coaching staff, I imagine, don't do that. Well, I'm not saying they don't do that, but they watch them in training all week long. If any of you have played sports in any way, shape, or form, if you're crap in training, do you play in the game? No. If you're crap in training, sometimes you get left on the bench. If you're crap in training, you know that next week, right, okay, head on. Head screwed on. I've got to deliver. Training is significant, especially for a manager like Erik ten Hag, who is driving these standards, who's trying to stop these massive drop-offs that United have. And I'm fully in support of Erik ten Hag on this situation. The fact that there is evidence to suggest that Sancho's professionalism has been questioned at City. Like, it was when he was 16, ladies and gentlemen. When he thought he was going to go on the preseason tour with Man City, with Phil Foden and Brahim Diaz at City. He wasn't included in that squad. And then he just didn't answer the phone when Man City staff were calling him into training the following week. Professionalism. At Man City, at Dortmund, he came back from the international break late. Professionalism. At Manchester United, on more than one occasion, at separate times, his application in training has been questioned. Professionalism. That's the driver here. That's the driver of Erik ten Hag's frustrations here. And it's just, I'm almost staggered. I'm almost staggered that there's any United fan that at this point would actually try and say that Ten Hag, nah, he's the one that's caused all this. He's the problem. It's on Ten Hag. This. It really, I find it quite baffling. And it might be a very small thing, this. It might be a very small thing. And I'll tell you what, I forgot to mention at the start of the podcast, but me and Jake, big up Jake, we released there's a new episode of the United People's podcast yesterday where we go into this in a lot of different detail that I won't speak about here on the show this morning. But this point in particular by Jake was brought up. So let me pull this up in the Athletics article here, right? Down at the bottom. United were open to selling Jadon Sancho to Saudi Arabia before their transfer window closed last week. We heard and we saw those reports that came out suggesting that maybe there'd be a late loan spell for Jadon Sancho. And it says there, Sancho declined to engage and instead he flew to New York for a break. So you know what I've just told you there about what Sancho did when he was 16, 17, and he didn't get in the preseason squad for Man City. And then he just didn't answer the calls for Man City when they said, where are you in training? You're not coming in. That's what Sancho's done here. Man United at that point, after the statement, decided, you know what, if the right offer came in, we would probably consider selling him. And Jadon Sancho didn't engage, declined to engage, just went to New York, did what he wanted to do. Our club has been crap for like 10 plus years. And we finally got a manager who really is genuinely trying to get things in control. And it was Ronaldo who fell off first. And Maguire didn't fall off. Maguire was sort of pushed off, helped off. De Gea, Ten Hag made a decision in my opinion, after we couldn't get Kane. And now Sancho's part of it. It's Ten Hag's way or the highway. That's why I've got those two on the wall there. There's quite a few super chats that are coming. I'm not ignoring them, by the way. I will be going back and reading them all. Just wanted to get my point across here because it's something to get distracted. But the reason I've got those two on the wall there is because Fergie is the man, the manager, the man, the guy that will always remember the man who made modern Manchester United. And he did it in his image and his way. And Roy Keane, David Beckham, Jaap Stam, Ruud van Nistelrooy. Geez, there's some others you want to throw in that. He fell out spectacularly with some players. What happened? Man United still carried on under Fergie and we just kept regenerating. David James, Fergie left it in a mess. You're feeling sprightly today, dude, if you want to focus on that point. My point here overall is that Ten Hag, we have to hope that Ten Hag stays here long enough and outlasts the Glazers' greed so that we can have a true, proper structure behind the scenes that genuinely supports a manager. And it's not about, I'll support, here's all the money in the world. It's like this situation with Jadon Sancho. If Manchester United really and truly did all their research, there would have been red flags about the character of Jadon Sancho. Quite easy red flags that you would have noticed. And if you had a manager who was demanding signings to a certain profile, Jadon Sancho, he wouldn't have fit that category. If Erik Ten Hag was manager of Manchester United at that time, we would not have signed for Jadon Sancho. We wouldn't have gone after Jadon Sancho because of those red flags. And there are so many things that this club needs to sort out. I don't think the player support and the player care behind the scenes is anywhere near strong or good enough that allows problems like this to exacerbate and exaggerate and, well, turn into the situations that they're in. I'm going to go down here. There's quite a few super chats. Let me read these out. And then I'm going to open up to the floor and I'm going to get some of your comments in too. All right. What are we saying down here? Jibak, you're saying there's quite a few things that Erik Ten Hag has done that warrants criticizing, but he's the boss. Going on a warpath against him seals your fate at the club. I think that's a very fair comment there from Jibak. If you call the manager a liar in public and you won't apologize, you may as well pack your bags. You can have your grievances. You can say this. You can say whatever you want. If you go public and you call your manager a liar in any job, odds are you're not going to have your job for much longer. And that's the situation that Ten Hag and Sancho now find themselves. Spence, you're saying if you don't have the energy to turn up for training and meetings on time when playing for United, you don't deserve to play. Simple. From a professional standard, that is completely and utterly correct. From the perspective of Jadon Sancho has admitted that he has sleeping problems. There's still more that we don't know about that. But that doesn't justify just not turning up on time, not having enough energy. I'm tired. It's unprofessional. And that's why Ten Hag, maybe this is part of why Ten Hag has always been driving the concept of nutrition, sleep. You know, he keeps saying these things. You know, you have to live football. Football is not just something that you turn up to and you can do. You have to live and breathe it. That's what Amrabat said as soon as he signed. He goes, football is basically a way of life for me. It's so busy. Maybe part of this has always been his way. I don't know. I can't make assumptions there. What's going on here? Julia Stewart will join Premier League productions in the UK. Another top talent, even South Africa, apparently. Feeden spoke about Ronaldo getting frustrated with the lack of levels displayed since his return. We've all been frustrated. And Ronaldo had every right to be frustrated, but truth be told, and he couldn't see it himself, he was part of that. He couldn't, his mind was still as sharp as anything, but his body was just a couple of yards too slow. And unfortunately for Ronaldo, he didn't have the self-awareness to realize that he was kind of part of the problem. And I don't think he ever would. Sig Gaming trying to get me to answer a really crap question there. That's a terrible question. I'm pulling it up. I'm not engaging in that, man. Alex, how you doing? I said, I always felt hard work will always beat talent. Feels like Pellistri is going to prove that point. Sancho needs to apologize and knuckle down or go. And the thing is, right, you think the thing that makes, I suppose, this Sancho situation stand out even more is Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Aaron Wan-Bissaka was down in the dumps. I completely wrote him off. And he did nothing but head down, absolutely nothing but head down and graft and grind. And still at that point, I didn't really give him a chance. And after the World Cup and he came back, Wan-Bissaka surprised us all, surprised Erik ten Hag. And right now, Wan-Bissaka is in talks with the club over a new long-term contract. They are the two polar opposite situations. Wan-Bissaka and Jadon Sancho, both young, really talented English internationals. One and both where I said they had. Well, I didn't say that Sancho had no chance, but I said Wan-Bissaka didn't, and he's proved me completely wrong. Sancho hasn't done that, and maybe that is. And the Sancho's obviously accusing Ten Hag here of basically favoritism. Like, shock horror, ladies and gents. Managers have favorites. Every manager has favorites. Every parent has favorite kids. They just don't tell you. And look, this is what I mean. I'm not saying that Ten Hag is exempt from criticism here. I think you can question whether he should have said that out in public. But I think on the flip side, he did try everything. It felt like he tried everything. He exhausted every private route, and none of them worked. None of them got the response that he wanted. So we tried something else. And I also think, had we beaten Arsenal and Sancho, and he was asked that question, he might not have said the same thing about. So I think there was part of the game was playing in his head. Let me see what you're saying down here. Ayo, a couple more super chats. You said, for me, I agree that City would not let him go if they felt he was better than Foden, for example. Same age, very different mentalities. One is thriving and the other is stalling. I mean, that's kind of a fair point, but you can't really completely judge a player at that age. But maybe Manchester City saw red flags and they decided at that point that it wasn't for them. And City have not exactly done badly. Neither's Phil Foden. So because he helped Sancho by giving him time off, it's okay for Ten Hag to call him lazy. So Sancho owes him because Ten Hag helped him with mental health one time. So Sancho's mental health is okay now. Let me read that again. Because he helped Sancho by giving him time off, it's okay for Ten Hag. Ten Hag didn't call him lazy. Jadon was on his performance in training, so we didn't select him. You have to reach the level every day at Manchester United. You can make choices in the front line. So in this game, he wasn't selected. You've taken that and said that he's called him lazy. Ten Hag has just said he's not doing enough in training. And Ten Hag, you know how we say Ten Hag that managers need to pick players on form. I think managers, as a percentage, right? This is an interesting one. I'll be interested to know where you sit on this one. As a percentage, what do you think makes up Erik ten Hag's mindset in how he picks a player from a week by week basis? How much do you think? How much emphasis do you think he puts on training, and how much emphasis do you think he puts on the performance in the match? Because we all know from game to game, players can go hot and cold. You know, form is temporary, class is permanent, and all that. As a percentage, How much do you think training matters to Ten Hag? And how much do you think performance in the game matters to Ten Hag? Is it 50-50? Does he put more emphasis on training? I mean, this is just pure speculation, of course. This is just pure, just a conversation. But I think because of Ten Hag's style and how intense it is, if you don't see that in training, how can you possibly expect that to come in a game? Right? How can you can't? You can safely presume that it probably won't come in a game because you haven't seen it all week in training. Richard, you're saying 75-25, 95% training, 5%. I won't go as far as that. Training 80, performance 20, 70-30, 75-25. I don't know what number I would put on it, but I personally feel that Ten Hag and his coaching staff put more emphasis on training than we think. There's a couple more super chats here, so this conversation is still going on. Tom, you're saying, I'm worried that Murto and Arnold will interfere and force Ten Hag to play him to protect the asset. Tom, they already tried to do that, my friend, and it didn't work. And Jadon Sancho is now training with the kids. If Jadon Sancho was worth £10 million, John Murto wouldn't have gone and knocked on Erik Ten Hag's door. That is a pressure from above. That is a conversation that would have started with Joel and Abraham Glazer ringing Richard Arnold, going, "Hold on, we paid 70 million for Jadon Sancho. Go and tell Erik Ten Hag that he needs to sort it out." "No, you sure about that? Go and tell Erik Ten Hag." Richard Arnold's probably like, "Okay." Goes to John Murto. He goes to Erik Ten Hag, and then Erik Ten Hag says, "You can shut the door behind you." Whoop. Definitely that came from the absolute top. Let me see what you're saying down here in the comments. Look, man, you can say to me, Sam, Erik Ten Hag's got favoritism towards Anthony. Sam, Erik Ten Hag's got favoritism towards Anthony Martial. Sam, Jadon Sancho hasn't had enough opportunities. And I will say to you, if Sancho hasn't been doing it in training, which is the core of this, the crux of this problem, then he's not doing enough. The manager won't give him chances. And to think that calling a manager a liar is the way for you to get around those situations and problems is just, I mean, it was only ever going to end one way. There's no way that Sancho would have had advice and the advice would have been to release that statement. Let me see what you're saying in the comments. Jonathan, you're saying if he doesn't pick Pellistri on the right and plays Garnacho, is that based on training, do you think? I did think about this, actually. I'm going to run through my starting 11 quite soon. Next point we're going on to is going to be the Brighton game. We can start talking about football. Thank God for that. Presumably, yes. Because Pellistri delivers pretty much every time he plays. And this, again, goes back to what I was saying about how players play in training compared to how they play in a match. Because every time Pellistri has come into a game scenario, his cameo has been quite impressive. So that must mean that something's not quite matching up in training, which must mean that Erik Ten Hag, like I was trying to explain there, puts a lot of emphasis on player selection in how they impress him or don't impress him on a week-by-week basis in training. Because that's where Erik Ten Hag sees his players for like 80% of the week is in training. So, of course, it's going to make up a big proportion of what's going on upstairs in his head as to who should be playing and who shouldn't be playing. Right. I think there's a couple more. Is there a couple more super chats? There's one there from Warren. Speaking of professionalism and hard work, can we get Zlatan to come back and give... Mate, Zlatan, eh? He was so unlucky to get that injury because he would have finished the season with 30 goals. Remember that? Wasn't that the same game where, wasn't it Ibrahimovic and Rojo? Was it Celta Vigo? Shit, if I got that right. I think it was Europa semi at Old Trafford. I think we got 2 ACL injuries in the same game. I think. Niki, you've sent a super chat, dude, but you haven't written anything. So if you can send a normal comment, I'll try and notice it. To Ten Hag, Cristiano must have been bad in training. I don't think anybody has ever said that Ronaldo's a bad trainer. I think that's the complete opposite. Everyone's always credited Ronaldo with being first in training and last out of training. I don't think Ten Hag ever said anything about Ronaldo's training. It's just that it was, yeah, Ronaldo just couldn't see it, unfortunately. Just couldn't see that he was slowing down a couple of yards. Was it Celta Vigo? Mate, 10 out of 10. I'm giving myself 10 out of 10 for that. Little round of applause from me. I hope we see, right? I really hope we see. And this is a nice reason to be positive. We can talk about all the negativity. Like in the last 5 days, we've had a 75, 80, I have no idea how much Anthony actually costs. An £80 million right wing signing who now is indefinitely absent from the club. And we've got a £70 million, wow, he was signed as a right winger, but he hardly played there. A £70 million winger who now has been banished from first team for the first team training for calling the manager a liar and not apologizing. It's like a soap opera. But then, wrong way, you can look at these two. Garnacho, man. A very exciting player. Garnacho, who did have some issues with professionalism in pre-season last season. What happened? He was late to team meetings. What happened then? He was kicked out. He didn't get hardly a minute on the pre-season tour, despite winning the FA Youth Cup and despite being just an amazing talent. Ten Hag said, no, you turned up late. What happened? It was the beginning of them coming through. Garnacho, he listened. He took it on board. Now, the shoe doesn't fit everybody, okay? And clearly, well, we can obviously tell that now. It's not really you might say it's the power of hindsight. You might say it's not the power of hindsight. But Ten Hag saying in public that Sancho wasn't delivering in training, he hoped to get a reaction. And look at the reaction he got. It was the complete and total, utter opposite of what he wanted. So I reckon Ten Hag does regret that. But he had to apologize publicly. You cannot, as a manager, build a massive part of your persona and authority in how you deliver discipline across the squad and have a player come out and basically call you a liar in public and that player not to apologize and somehow just come back into the first team fold. If Sancho had just come back in, the press would have butchered him for that. They would have used that to really twist the knife into Erik ten Hag's character, persona, ability to have an authority over the players. He's lost the dressing room. The fallout would have been, they would have assassinated Erik ten Hag's character as Manchester United manager if Sancho had come back into the squad without apologizing. That's why Ten Hag held that stance, and I completely agree with that. But Sancho didn't want to apologize. Sancho felt absolutely firm that he was correct. And unless that changes, we will not see Jadon Sancho kick a ball for Manchester United again. And you keep saying it's down here, man. What do you mean if he's right? Calling your manager out in public. The manager said you're not training properly. You've said you have trained properly. Jadon Sancho doesn't decide if he's trained properly, dude. The manager does. What do you mean if he's right? He called his manager a... Come on, people. My word. It's getting on my nerves now. What is it? I saw this, man. It's like so much of modern football is about supporting players. I'm not sure I can be bothered to talk about this Jadon Sancho stuff anymore. I really can't. Our football club is just get me new owners, please, so we can build all the stuff behind the scenes and we can start this 2 year. I don't know how long it's going to take. But we need so much more. I think there's a double gong, by the way. I apologize about that. That comment just irked me. I don't get it. How are you ever right calling a manager a liar in public? What do you mean quandary? What quandary? Jeez. Anyway, do you want to know something funny? Feels like we need a laugh after this. Apparently it's a triple gong. Jeez. This is funny, right? Chris Wheeler, yesterday from the Daily Mail. Anthony Martial spotted leaving training after 5 minutes. Bombshell. A couple of minutes later. Oh, actually, it looks like Martial was just early for training. Imagine that, like, full story. Martial's left training early. Oh my God. Nah, he just didn't. He just turned up at the wrong time. It's funny. Made me laugh. As I said, we needed a laugh, right? We did need a laugh. How early, by the way, when you think about it, how early would Martial have had to be? Because if he was like an hour early, he would have just like chilled out in the canteen or something like that. He must have been like 3, 4, 5 hours early. Made me laugh down there. Let me see this out. Let me see if I want to nibble on this one. Sometimes I like nibbling. What was this one? Where did it go? Nah, can't be bothered. I'm going to move on from that one. Legendary villain, you're saying down here, what you're saying is what happens when fans support players more than managers. Can you imagine if the young generation existed in Fergie's days? Fergie threw a shoe at Beckham, cuss Ronaldo and footballers these days are different. And it's just completely the truth. Society is different. And that's what happens. Society moves on. So it's not a case of looking back and going, oh, players in my day, blah, blah, blah. Although yesterday I did. Oh, no, actually, I'd ignore that one. Players in the modern game, because of social media and because of the access that the public are now granted into a player's life, so much more of a player's life is scrutinized and monetized. That's why players can earn so much more money now than they could before, because the exposure levels of a player's life, like the looking glass, it's so much more. Instead of seeing a player play football and then he goes home and sometimes you don't hear or see from them for a couple of days. That's kind of what happened back in the day. Fergie's days. Modern football is completely different. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, you know what a player's doing sometimes before training, on the way to training, after training, in the evening, what his wife's doing, what his cousin's doing, what his wife's cousin's doing, what his wife's third cousin, uncle removed is doing, 24/7. And therefore, the players earn more money because so much more of their lives are out there and you can monetize them. But at the same time, it creates environments like this where players are so much harder to manage. Like Fergie would not have been anywhere near as successful in this modern generation than he was when he was manager. He just wouldn't. It just wouldn't have worked. I think Fergie was the highest paid player at Manchester, highest paid person at Manchester United. I think maybe up until the Rooney situation. I think Rooney was when that switched, and it was always a big part of his policy because he wanted players to understand that he was the manager and that he was in charge. David, thank you for super chat, dude. Can I say thank you to everyone for the super chats? And look, I might disagree with you, and I've just nibbled and I've gobbled on a few comments there. Football, it gives you talking points, and this in particular, and how to deal with this has definitely split opinions. But I will reaffirm that you just do not call your manager a liar in public. Even if he has some grounds to do it, you do not do that in public. And do not tell me otherwise. even you just don't. You just don't. Ten Hag is not wrong in his approach to Sancho. If we did that in our employment, we would end up in a disciplinary with potential of being sacked. Yeah, I think you would. And I think that's exactly what has happened. Sancho is in a disciplinary. He's not in potential of being sacked. He hasn't breached his contract. He's just breached and sort of changed the relationship between Ten Hag and Sancho. After Erik Ten Hag gave him 3 months off. Let's see what the fallout is, right? But I tell you what, sod that. For the last 10, 15 minutes, can we have a little conversation about this game tomorrow, all right? Brighton. It is not the easiest game to come back in. I'm not sure if you've watched my preview video yesterday. Brighton have think they put 4 past Luton, 3 past Sheffield United, and 3 past Newcastle. I mean, they obviously lost 3-1 to West Ham, but nobody scored more goals per game, I think, than Brighton or City. Yeah, it is map day. We'll bring the map up after this. Let's speak about the game first. Let's speak about the football first, right? I'm really genuinely excited for this. Not just for the fact that we need to bury these last 2 weeks, but also the fact that we've got Højlund coming in. Also the fact that we've got hopefully Amrabat coming in. Now, if you're looking at the big weaknesses of Manchester United so far this season, I would put that down to 2 major things from a team performance perspective. Number one, we've not had a striker. Martial has absolutely ghosted these first few games. Did Rashford start in the middle in the first game? I don't know what was going on. I think it might have been Rashford in the middle and Garnacho on the left. We have not had a centre forward, and that has massively affected our ability to control that area of the pitch and to be clinical, because we've had chances, and again, we've not been finishing. Højlund changes that. Lots of you are asking, are saying, "Oh, is Amrabat fit? Is Amrabat dead?" Amrabat left Morocco completely precautionary. I'm hoping that he is completely fit to start. And if he is fit to start, then he will start. If he isn't, then you'll probably see Casemiro there, and you'll probably see Eriksen brought in, just like we did against Arsenal. Of course, we don't know whether Pulisic is going to start on the right wing. This was my starting 11, right? We go over here. Pull this up here. This was my starting 11. I was hoping that we were going to see Højlund up front there. I hope Bruno was going to stay in the middle, Rashford on the left, Pulisic on the right, coming in for Anthony. That's what I want to see. Now, something that a lot of people are worried about, which I think you can have concerns about. I hope it doesn't happen, but technically that could happen, and probably that. But then if Amrabat's not fit to play, then what happens? Do you get McTominay in? You could get McTominay in. I hope that doesn't happen, all right? I hope we see Bruno Fernandes start. Oh, dear. I hope we see Bruno Fernandes start in the middle, which is his best position. He's been so creative from there so far this season, and bring Pulisic on. And I went into a lot of detail as to why that should be the case and why it's really important that we have Pulisic on that right-hand side. Let me quickly explain it to you here, right? And it's this. So this right-hand side, you've got Wan-Bissaka there. He's going to be really occupied with Mitoma. Okay? So what we need a winger who is going to do the same to Brighton's left back. And that's why we need Pulisic. We need Pulisic really hugging this touchline, getting wide and dragging that fullback with him. Because why is that? That means that Bruno can drift into these spaces. And these spaces here, with the ball and Højlund in the middle, it's going to be so dangerous for Brighton. I'm not just saying that because of the fact that Bruno got 2 assists there for Portugal, but that's part of my logic and thinking. But Bruno in those half spaces with an actual striker making runs in between defenders, it's going to make a substantial difference. That's why I want to see Pulisic there, because I think the width against Brighton is going to be quite important. And because Wan-Bissaka is going to be occupied with Mitoma, I don't think that we're going to see him come forward too often. Right? That's what I think. Now, you might disagree with that. I'm going to see down here in the comments. You get everyone firing your predictions for the game, by the way. I'll start reading them out. Aiden, you're saying you're excited for Bruno against Rasmus. I am as well. Brighton's midfield also needs to be contained. It does. It's certainly gone down a little bit since Caicedo left, and that's not too much of a surprise. But that's why I hope that Amrabat starts. Amrabat is the energy that we miss in that midfield, that we need in that midfield, and we basically can't get in that midfield without Amrabat. You probably could put McTominay there, but he doesn't have the technical ability. He'll have the athleticism, but not the ability. So he'll be able to stop them, but he won't be able to build up. And then United will just come back to United too often. You see what your predictions are. Gungshu, you're going for 2-1. Greg, you're going for 3-1. Afik, you're going 3-2. Theo, 4-1. Samwise, you're saying 2-all. 2-1 says Ricky. 3-1 says Kalechi. 3-1 says Ben. 3-2 says Jonathan. Well, my prediction's 2-1. The players that we do not know about for this game are these two. We do not know whether Amrabat or Martinez is fit. Martinez went off against Arsenal, but then went to international duty within Argentina, and they said, "Hey, he's fine, but we're not going to risk him if we don't need to," and they didn't, and they didn't risk him. So he's had 2 weeks. Amrabat, we know that he pulled out of international duty with an injury, and that was more precaution than anything. We don't know how precautionary it was. Fingers crossed, he'll be fit. Fingers crossed they're both fit, and if they're both fit, it's going to be a good game. I don't know whether it's going to be an enjoyable game for United fans to watch, because Brighton are good, man. As I said, I think they've got the highest XG this season. Scored 3 or more goals on 3 out of 4 games. But West Ham did show how to beat them. I don't expect United to sit back and sort of sit back and then hit on the counter. That's what West Ham did, and that's how West Ham won. But I tell you what, right? This front 3, right? That's like the Mighty Duck. It's like the Mighty Duck V, the Flying V. That could be what United do going forward, the Flying V. Can you move that? No, you can't. Rashford, Højlund, and Pellistri on the counter-attack. That is unstoppably fast. Unstoppably? That's not a word. That is ridiculously fast. Odie, you're saying, I can't believe we're talking about football. Dude, you're telling me. I have struggled these last 2 weeks. Badly. I don't thrive in negativity. I really don't. The community disappears. I know the community doesn't disappear. The core of the community stays, but the fringe community disappears until they come back. Until Man United start winning again. And fingers crossed it. It is amazing, amazing, amazing what happens at a football club when you think everything is doom and gloom. And then you start winning a couple of football games. And all of a sudden, there's kind of light. It's easier to be positive again. And what a week United have got, by the way. What a week. Brighton at home. Bayern Munich away. Jeez. Look, a couple of things before we end the show here today. First of all, if you can, please go and listen to the podcast. It's me and Jake, and it's a real in-depth chat about Jadon Sancho, about Harry Maguire, and also a preview for the Brighton game, if you so enjoy that. But also, it's Friday, ladies and gents. I'll say here, sorry if you think that I'm nibbled. I definitely nibbled for quite a few there, and I nibbled on you in particular. Because I find it staggering that the concept of United fans standing in Jadon Sancho's corner on this one. And it's not definitively standing in one corner or the other. I think you can question certain things with what Ten Hag has done, but you cannot question that at this moment in time, there is no other choice apart from to banish him from training. And there's no way for him back unless he apologizes. But look, it's a podcast. It is the map. You know what happens on map day. Let me know where you're watching from, country and town in the country, and I'll get you added onto the map. We've got who? We've got Myanmar, we've got USA, Thailand, Australia, Poland, St. Lucia, Lebanon, UK, Namibia, Portugal, Malaysia, Germany, and Fiji as some of our recent map points. Let's go down here. Comment down. I've got to say this, right? I've got to say it. Like, dude, please. You leave a lot of comments during the show. You almost feel like I'm able to follow your full conversation whilst I'm reading out hundreds of other comments. Think about it, man. This is all in real time. Understand that. Really understand that. I can't. Please. Steve, watching from Real in North Wales. What's going on, man? Not Real, not Reese. Real. In you go. In you go there. Right. Let's go here. Let's go see who's down there. We've got Joe Berg. I know we've definitely got Joe Berg on here. We've got We've got Israel watching from a bracket in Nigeria. Welcome aboard, sir. Bracket in Nigeria. There you go. And let's get one more. Let's get one more. Right, let's get one more. Deshin, we go for Amanzim Totti. Amanzim Totti? I think I said that right. Amanzim Totti in South Africa. Wicked. On the map you go, madams. Madams? Gentlemen, madams, everybody. Look, big up to everybody for watching. It's been a taxing couple of weeks. Thank you for sticking around here at United People's TV. Tomorrow, I will be here with the match reaction. Yes, an actual football game. I swear to God, please win. Please win. Thank you for everybody that tuned in. Please drop a like on the video. I'll be here at lunchtime with another video. You know I will be. And we'll try and put these last 2 weeks to bed. All right? Much love.